Hey everyone! So, as of writing this, I am currently on a plane. I mean, by the time you're seeing this, I'll probably be back home since I have to record my lines and blah blah blah, but woohoo. Also, we just began and I already hear a kid crying. Wonderful. Anyways, where am I going? Well, Florida of course. But yeah, that's the beach. There's like lightning everywhere. I'm probably gonna die like any second now. Probably gonna get some interesting comments about that, but I'm not going there to wrestle alligators or whatever the internet thinks Florida people do, but mainly because the family is taking us to Disney and Universal, and with that in mind, it got me thinking more about theme parks. As I haven't really mentioned this before, but I'm actually a huge fan of theme parks in general, including their history and attractions. And with this, it inevitably combined with my interest in Bluey, and led me to an interesting question. Will there be a Bluey ride? Now, that might sound kind of silly, but it's not as far-fetched as you might think, as Bluey herself has become a pretty recognizable name, with toys, mascots, a live show, and even an upcoming video game. Not just the mobile game one, but actually on consoles. So it seems like a ride would just be the next natural step. And not to mention that Peppa Pig, who is, I guess, kind of a commercial rival for Bluey, even though they're arguably pretty different, literally has a whole theme park just for her. So come on, Bluey's gotta get at least something. But with that said, I thought it would be fun to speculate on how a Bluey ride could actually work. Where would it go? What type of ride would it be? And what would it be like in general? So without further ado, let's begin! So regarding where it could be, there are plenty of options to choose from, but for the sake of time, we'll just cover the most popular ones. And to start, let's look at the one I'm sure most of you are already thinking of, Disney World. I mean, it's a big place, Disney is considered a relatively quality brand, even if there has been a few bumps as of recently, and most importantly, they already have a link to the show, as they do stream it on their service, Disney+. So there we go, Disney owns the show, they got the money and land, all ready to go, right? Well, it's not that simple. First off, for those who might be newcomers here, I'm gonna bust a common misconception. Disney doesn't actually own Bluey. Yeah, they played on their services, but they just have the rights to stream it there and air it on their channels. They don't actually make it or even own it, so that's out of the window. But you know what? That's okay, because they did get a land themed after Avatar, and that was owned by 20th Century Fox. Oh, wait. Okay, well it opened before the buyout, so the logic still applies. But even if they did get permission, I highly doubt this would be a priority for Disney. Especially now. I mean, it took them like what, a gazillion years just to build a copy of a ride that exists in Shanghai? So they're not exactly opening rides left and right here, although they have made a few new additions. And on top of that, Bluey, as good as the show is, wouldn't really fit with the themes of any of the parks. Animal Kingdom is more or less about animal and environmental conservation. Hollywood Studios is basically a dumping ground for all of Disney's own IPs. Epcot does have a part dedicated to foreign countries, but Australia isn't one of them. And Magic Kingdom is mainly dedicated to the classics, and the original themes inspired by Disneyland, which Bluey doesn't really fit into any of. So even though it could be possible, I don't see Disney being a likely choice, at least not in this current state. So with that, what if they just did a Harry Potter and went next door to Universal? Well, first off, Universal is actually kind of far from Disney World, so you wouldn't be able to do that. And second of all, this choice wouldn't be the most perfect either. Now with Universal, they do feature a lot of properties, including many they don't own, such as Harry Potter, Super Mario, and even Marvel, built before the Disney buyout of course. And although Universal is popular with teens and adults, they do have some attractions for younger guests, such as a land dedicated to Dr. Seuss, and surprisingly, their link with Bluey isn't as far as you think, as they did actually distribute some DVDs for the show. However, similar to Disney, I don't see this being likely either, as Universal would likely want to focus on investing more in their own properties instead of adding more from others, therefore avoiding more complications with legal agreements, royalties, and other stuff. So there, nobody's ever gonna make a Bluey ride and we're all gonna be sad forever, right? Well, maybe not. Because shocker, there's a whole world of theme parks outside of Disney and Universal. And out of the hundreds out there, there's one I have in mind. I mean, Six Flags might step up or something, but no, not that. Rather, one that actually has, or had, an actual great shot at making a Bluey ride. Dreamworld. So if you don't know, Dreamworld is a theme park in Australia, and I'm sure for you that already sounds great, but it gets even better, because not only is Dreamworld Australian, but it's located in the Gold Coast, roughly 55 kilometers, or 34 miles from my fellow Yankees, from Brisbane. So it's basically in Bluey's backyard. And as if that wasn't appropriate enough, get this. They already have a land for ABC Kids, the network Bluey plays on, and the company that literally co-commissioned the show. So there's basically a direct connection to some of the people in charge. And I'm sure Ludo wouldn't mind either. In fact, I know this because Bluey is already in the park. Or rather, she was. Kind of. Because a while back, they actually had the official Bluey mascots visit Dreamworld. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a permanent thing, but that shows they're obviously on great terms. And with that, I don't think there's a better choice. Although from what I know, I don't think they have plans to expand the ABC area, and I'm not entirely sure if there's even room for a new Bluey attraction, but I suppose we'll have to keep a watch on that. So with that said, if the ride were to open, what would it actually be like? Well, in general, I think something like a dark ride would work really well, which is essentially the term used for a more slower, scenic ride, as opposed to something more thrilling like a roller coaster. This way, everyone would be able to ride it, including younger or older people who may not enjoy a more thrilling experience.
I've got it, I'm doing it!
And even though that doesn't sound too cool, I believe that could work really well, because with dark rides, you can create elaborate scenes and tell a great story. So for this Bluey ride, maybe you could make scenes depicting various moments in the show, like one where the viewers fly alongside Bluey as a fruit bat, fly across the galaxy with Bingo, or even experience the wrath of Muffin when she misses a nap. And honestly, knowing the crew, they could even create a brand new, original story, like they did with the play or supposedly with the upcoming console game, such as an adventure where we find a special artifact with Bandit, or even a chaotic run through a fictional world, like the one in Escape or Dragon.
Oh man, these furry jokes are itchy.
Also, regarding the other aspects of the ride, they could add other Bluey elements as well, such as theming the ride cars to the healer's SUV, and I could even imagine them having animatronics, kind of like the big play puppets. Whether those will look super charming or incredibly uncanny, I'll leave that up to your imagination. However, if there was a Bluey ride, I don't think the budget would be incredibly high, so we might have to rely on more screens instead, which would be understandable, albeit a bit disappointing. And honestly, I might be thinking too small with just one ride, as Bluey could easily justify a small theme park, because they could do way more, like a circus-themed spinner ride, where visitors are hurled around by Hercules and his strength, a small kiddie coaster themed after Muffin's crazy drive-in pizza girls, and even a carousel themed after Bingo's dreams, featuring their stuffed animals for riders to sit on. But you know what? Why stop at rides? They could do even more. Like for instance, a food place set to Bluey's kitchen where guests can try some pavlova and whatever this is if they dare. Or a replica of the market full of various treats and eats, with like a busker animatronic playing music or something. And if that scares the kids, don't worry. It'll actually just make it more show accurate. And of course, a recreation of Bluey's house and school, where visitors can meet the characters and spot various references. I mean, they do already have mascots made for Bluey and Bingo, and for the set, they could even reuse the props from that temporary Airbnb house they had, assuming they still have them. And in true theme park fashion, we can also imagine some gift shops they could have, such as the toy store where Alfie works at, or even a place just themed after a bunch of other businesses seen in the show, carrying the typical merch but also replica items, such as the beloved yes/no button. This would not only be lucrative, but also add to the theming, creating almost a small replica of the show's setting. Now that, all combined together, would honestly be one of the coolest things ever, and I'm sure they could do way more if they wanted, as these were just a few ideas I came up with. But with that said, I'm curious to hear what you think of a potential Bluey ride, or even theme park. Do you think one could be possible in the near future? And if you were in charge, what would you build? For this one, I am very curious to hear your ideas down below, and until next time, my name's Hideaki, and I'll be signing out. Have a great day everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone. So, for today's art of the day, we have this just awesome drawing by More MJ Art from Instagram, featuring Hideaki in amazing attire, and even my old car, which is something that doesn't get represented a lot. And I knew the moment they shared this with me that I just had to share it with y'all ASAP. Special thanks to them for this utterly spectacular piece. Thank you so much.